Now, the chateau had a fire in like the late 80s, ravaged the whole place, roof off, destroyed everything.
At first glance, it looks like a simple renovation story. A man, an abandoned building, and a dream to restore what time and fire destroyed. But this story isn't really about stone walls or broken roofs. It's about what happens when life collapses, and a man chooses not to run. Dan Preston, the calm face behind Escape to Rural France, appears peaceful on screen, quiet, focused, almost untouched by chaos. He works alone, speaks softly, and rebuilds history one stone at a time. To viewers, his life looks slow, simple, even ideal. But that image hides a truth few ever saw. Before the chateau, before France, and before YouTube, Dan's life was shaped by pressure, heartbreak, and choices that changed everything. What drove him to leave his old world behind? Why did he choose a burned, abandoned chateau when starting over felt impossible? And what personal cost did that decision carry? This is not just a renovation story. This is what you didn't know about Dan Preston from Escape to Rural France. Dan Preston was born and raised in Hampshire, England, where his early years were defined by simplicity and family. From a young age, Dan learned best by using his hands. He wasn't someone who enjoyed sitting still or following rigid routines. Instead, he took things apart, repaired what was broken, and learned through trial and error. Family played a central role in his upbringing. Dan spent much of his youth helping relatives with repairs, maintenance, and everyday tasks. These early experiences shaped his character, practical, grounded, and quietly determined. That mindset eventually led Dan Preston into the hospitality industry, where he trained and worked professionally as a chef. Life inside a kitchen was relentless. Days blurred into nights, pressure never eased, and every service demanded perfection. Long shifts tested his endurance, tight deadlines pushed his focus, and even the smallest mistake carried consequences. It was an environment where excuses didn't survive, only discipline did. Over time, those years shaped Dan in ways few could see. He learned how to stay calm when chaos erupted, how to move with precision under stress, and how to keep going even when exhaustion set in. What he didn't know then was that these lessons wouldn't just define his career, they would They help him survive the most difficult chapter of his life. After many years in the United Kingdom, Dan reached a turning point. The pace, the noise, and the repetition no longer matched who he had become. He wanted space, silence, and a connection to the land, so he made a decision that would change everything. He left behind the familiar and moved to France, drawn by the promise of nature, simplicity, and a slower way of living. He soon became a familiar face on the Chateau Diaries. Filmed at Chateau de Lalande, viewers were introduced to him as the reliable man with tools in the back of his van, the one who handled the heavy lifting while others came and went. Calm, capable, and consistent, Dan quickly became someone the chateau depended on and someone audiences quietly admired. He mowed vast fields, cleared fallen trees, repaired gates, trimmed overgrown land, and took care of the work that demanded physical endurance. He never complained. He never made a spectacle of himself. He simply showed up and worked. That authenticity made him stand out. Over time, Dan Preston became one of the most respected figures at the chateau. He wasn't just maintaining the grounds. He was helping hold the place together during its busiest periods. What many viewers didn't realize was that his calm nature wasn't accidental. It came from years spent under pressure as a chef, learning how to stay composed when everything around you feels overwhelming. But while his public life appeared stable, his private life was slowly fracturing. At home, Dan lived with his partner Annalise and their children in a farmhouse. Early videos showed warmth, shared goals, and a family building a future together in the French countryside. As Dan Preston's online presence grew, so did the weight that came with it. Filming for the Chateau Diaries, managing his own channel, Escape to Rural France, and editing videos late into the night slowly erased any sense of balance. Each upload demanded more time, more energy, and more sacrifice. What began as a creative outlet turned into a relentless cycle of deadlines and expectations. The man who had moved to France in search of peace suddenly found himself trapped in constant motion. Days were spent working on camera. Nights were spent behind a screen. Rest became rare, and family time quietly slipped away. Viewers sensed the shift long before it was spoken aloud. Annalise appeared less often. Dan was increasingly seen filming alone, The warmth of shared moments faded, replaced by a heavier, quieter energy that lingered between scenes. Questions grew, but answers did not come. Then in 2021, the truth surfaced. Dan Preston and Annalise had separated. There were no dramatic announcements or public arguments, just a simple acknowledgement that the weight of change had become too much to carry together. Dan moved into a nearby Airbnb, while Annalise remained in the farmhouse with their children, keeping their daily lives as stable as possible. Around the same time, Dan traveled to Turkey for dental work, sparking speculation among viewers searching for meaning in every detail. In reality, it was a long-delayed medical decision that happened to coincide with one of the hardest chapters of his life. When the separation became reality, Dan didn't walk away with comfort or certainty. He walked away with responsibility, unanswered questions, and a future that felt completely open and deeply frightening. And then came the decision that stunned everyone. Not a fresh start, not a safe reset. Instead of renting a modest home or choosing the easy path forward, hidden between small towns in the Creuse region of central France, the Château de Chemal was barely standing. A devastating fire in the late 1980s had destroyed nearly everything inside. Roofs collapsed, floors were gone. Charred beams lay scattered across rooms filled with ash and debris. Nature had reclaimed the structure. Trees leaned into the walls. Roots pushed through stone. Brambles wrapped themselves around doors and windows. Most people saw something beyond saving. Dan saw possibility. Built in 1886 for opera singer Eugenie Bardet and her daughter, the chateau carried deep historical weight. During World War II, it served as a hidden refuge for Jewish children, protecting them from persecution and violence. After decades of neglect, the building stood silent, a place once full of life, nearly erased by time. Dan often says the chateau spoke to him the moment he walked inside. There was no electricity, no running water, no functional roof. Still, he signed the papers. The early months were brutal. Dan cleared the entire interior by hand, carrying out burned timber, broken stone, and ash day after day. Some rooms were so unstable they could barely be entered. It took months just to expose the original floors. Outside, the battle with nature was just as relentless. Trees pressed against the structure, vines strangled walls. The forest had claimed the land completely. To survive, Dan built a Mongolian yurt in the park beside the chateau. Inside, he placed a small stove, a bed, and a few tools. That yurt became his home while he worked to make the ruins livable again. Then came the structural rebuild. The fire had destroyed entire floors, meaning each level had to be reconstructed from scratch. Dan mixed mortar, hauled timber, replaced support beams, and rebuilt walls, learning as he went. Progress was slow, exhausting, often overwhelming. But he wasn't alone. Two close friends, Nick and Brian, became crucial to the project. Nick focused on clearing land, cutting dangerous trees, and keeping the site safe. Brian, an Irish engineer and content creator, handled complex measurements, heavy structures, and critical planning. Together, they worked long days until dusk, driven by determination rather than certainty. By MID 2024, the transformation was undeniable. Two of the chateau's 3 roofs had been rebuilt entirely. Timber frames rose where collapse once ruled. The final wing and central tower remain. The last major challenges requiring extensive masonry and roofing. When those are complete, the chateau will finally be weatherproof again. What makes this story truly remarkable is how it is funded. There is no television network behind Dan Preston, no production company shaping the narrative, and no corporate sponsors dictating what must be shown on screen. Every step of the restoration is supported directly through YouTube, Patreon, and small viewer donations. People contribute not because they are promised spectacle, but because they believe in the mission itself. Estimates suggest Dan's income ranges between $6,000 and $6,900 per month. Yet nearly all of it flows straight back into materials, tools, and essential repairs. It's not profit, it's fuel. That financial independence gives Dan something rare. Freedom. Freedom from scripted drama. Freedom from manufactured tension. Freedom to show failure alongside progress. What viewers see is real work, real setbacks, and real victories, captured honestly, one day at a time. And through it all, this isn't just renovation, it's resilience made real. If this journey moved you, like this video, share his story, and help keep this dream alive. Thanks for watching.